Hey folks, this is Young from Career School. Today I'll be going over another leadership principle, and today's leadership principle is deliver results. As you might already know, I think deliver results is probably going to be one of the most important leadership principle among all these 16 of them. I think they are obviously equally important, but if you look at it in a perspective, like all the people who work in a company, who are employees of a company, I think at the end of the day, they really need to deliver results. Yeah, so don't get me wrong. I mean, all the other leadership principle, other 15 of the leadership principle are obviously super important. And if you are preparing for your interview, I think you should definitely be preparing yourself to answer any of them during your interview. But if you look at it, once you join the company, deliver results is probably going to be the most important one, as obviously, as you can see, all the other leadership principle are kind of supporting role, and then the deliver results is obviously going to be the end product. So it's like building blocks, and then the final product is deliver results when you look at it in that way. So you will use, let's say, earn trust, learn and be curious, think big, all these kind of good leadership principles to come up with or to deliver results of your final product. I think that's why I think this is probably the most important leadership principle out there, and I think you should really be prepared to nail this during your interview as well. So as a starter, let's go over the actual leadership principle and see what it actually means. Leaders focus on the key inputs for their business and deliver them with the right quality and in a timely fashion. Despite setbacks, they rise to the occasion and never settle. I think everyone at Amazon, or just like general everyone who's out there working in it as an employee, should have delivered results under their belt. So if we go over the leadership principle one more time, it's basically saying that, hey, there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of obstacles that will happen while you're on a project. However, you should be delivering it no matter what, in a timely fashion, regardless of those obstacles popping up. And these obstacles can be just simple ones, and it can also be very complicated ones. Simple ones meaning, hey, someone's out of the office during a meeting and we need that person's input. Or more complicated ones can be, hey, we have a supply chain issue because of, let's say, COVID, and we are not able to meet our goal because of that. There are a lot of different flavors to it, but you will understand if you're working at a company that when you're working in a project, there's no such thing as no issues, just perfectly fine, and then you just deliver results. It nearly never happens. So I think at the end of the day, what really matters is that, regardless of what happens to, your project or some issues pop up, I think it's really important that you be tenacious and then actually deliver results on the time you promised to deliver. We do actually talk a lot about delivering results during our meetings at Amazon, and obviously those are just like, when are we expecting, or what are we expecting, and those next action items or discussion points, like these are all things that are kind of related to delivering results as well, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to deliver results for the company, right? So I think a good way to frame or answer the deliver result questions that you might get during your interview is using the STAR format, but slightly different way. So you probably know that STAR format stands for situation, task, action, and then results. And I'd like to change this a little bit. So if you change the T to a C and make a scar instead of a star, it's actually stand for situation, challenge, action, and then result. So once you kind of put in that challenge part versus the task, you will kind of naturally be speaking about what were the obstacles that you were seeing, or what are the unexpected thing that you encountered during the project you were working on. So that will naturally give you the flavor of, hey, these were the things that I work on. And then like this issue that was not expected happened. And then I had to, solve this by using ABC and then delivered results by doing, X. So I think that's a really easy way to kind of putting or framing the story when you're answering the question. And obviously, please don't forget to add all the different metrics when you're actually giving the result part, because I think deliver result is obviously very important in terms of, hey, I launched this product or I launched this project, but what it really matters is that, so what? So like, what did that project or product do in terms of business impact? So that's when you share the results in terms of data or in terms of number, so that you can actually quantify it and share what went well and what did not. So yeah, I think we can now go into some of the sample questions I found on Google. And these are some really good sample questions that you might actually get during your interview. So the first one is, give me an example of a time when you were able to deliver an important project under a tight deadline. What sacrifices did you have to make to meet the deadline? How did they impact the final deliverable? And what was the final outcome? Number 2, tell me about a time when you had significant unanticipated obstacles to overcome in achieving a key goal. What was the obstacle? Were you eventually successful? Number 3, tell me about a time when you not only met a goal, but considerably exceeded expectations. How were you able to do it? What challenges did you have to overcome? So yeah, as you can probably see, all these sample questions kind of geared towards what are the obstacles you faced during a project and how did you overcome those and what was the outcome of it. That's the really important part. Like, if it's smooth, I mean, obviously there's not going to be a story if it was super smooth and you just tell, hey, this is this and that's that. But I think we want to learn what you have went through and like how you actually have dealt those situations when those obstacles came in, so that we can actually see what we can actually expect or assume what you would do once you join the company. Now, let's get into a sample answer that I actually used when I was interviewing for Amazon a few years back. Yeah, so it's been a while, so I'm just going to read it off from my PowerPoint here. So the situation is when I was back in Huawei, working as a product manager, launching the first smartphone for Korea. It was called the X3 project. And then after launching it, about a week after, we found out that there was like a issue on the software, was like banking app or something. I can't really remember what it was, but the engineers basically solved the problem and then released it after a few weeks. So after a few weeks of launch or the release of the new software, we were actually getting a decent amount of update rate, which was around 60%. As a product manager of the product, I had to basically come up with a solution to work on how to make customers to update the software to close to 100% ASAP. So yeah, as I said, I kind of broke down into two folds. One is like an immediate solution or a short-term solution, and the second is a long-term solution. So for the immediate solution, I kind of first work with the customer service team, and that we acknowledge that customer inconvenience with using that banking app. So we immediately notify the customer with the notification on the device, telling people that, hey, you know what, we acknowledge that this is happening and then we're trying to solve it, or we solved it and that the software is available. And then share the new version of the customer, and then also actually shared it with our customer service team and then the marketing team, so that we can get more awareness about the new software release. So that actually got us to increasing about 10% more versus where we kind of first started off, which was like 70% at this point. And then I had to literally think a little bit more creatively on making customers release or update this to the new software. So that's when I was like, hey, maybe it's that the customer want to update it, but like they are using the phone like all day long. So that they are not really able to update it or don't have the time to update it. So that's when I kind of thought about like the time setting for your update. So that's when I thought about it, and then I gave the sketch or conceptualized it with our engineers. And we kind of worked on making sure that this actually worked. So basically, customers were able to set their own time to update the device. So like probably would be like 3 a.m. when they're sleeping or something like that. And yeah, we rolled out the beta test with our engineers, and then rolled out the final software for it. And then that's how we got customers to actually update to the final software. So we released it, and then within the 4 or 5 weeks, I think we got close to 90% update rate, and then we got updated 35% more versus like the same time period. And this actually got into all the different Huawei devices. This was back in 2014. So even like all these, Samsung or Apples, I don't think they were actually doing this stuff then. And then, so we also have seen dramatic decrease in customer service team getting those phone calls, complaint phone calls. So that was also a win. But I think this was a really good example for delivering results, even though there were, tight deadline and also a challenge, actually doing this whole thing. So yeah, that was my story. And I think it's a pretty good story to share for the delivery results. Yeah, so that was it for today. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you get this question during your interview and then you nail it after watching this video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, please leave a comment if you have any questions around Amazon, leadership principles, or interviews, or just in general, anything about career development. Stay tuned for more content like this, and thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned.